G'day everybody and welcome to another episode of Automotive Carnage. In today's episode we continue work on my 1992 S13 Nissan Silvia and we continue with the manual transmission conversion. Okay, so as I said, we're going to continue work on my S13 Silvia, and I'm halfway through doing a 5-speed manual conversion. Halfway through because I've already removed all the automatic gear, and now it's time to start pulling in the fun manual transmission stuff. Now, I've noticed that on the old internet and YouTube that there actually is no simple how-to guide on doing one of these conversions for a S13 SR20 Silvia. There's heaps from the States on the KA24s, but it's kind of, you know, same but different. So I just want to show you guys what I have done already, some of the problems I've come across that there's simple solutions for, and I also want to say too that this is the first time I've ever done this. So this conversion's been done around the world hundreds and thousands of times. I'm sure there's someone who does it better than me, but this is the way I've done it, this is what I've learned, and if you've got any suggestions for anyone watching this video, please put in the comments. Something I may have missed or some way that you've found to be easier. Okay, so I've laid out here a few of the parts that you're going to need to successfully complete your manual conversion. Obviously the big one is you're going to need a 5-speed transmission. This one is, from what I can figure out, is out of a S13 turbo car, so it should have slightly stronger gears in it. It's a bit of an unknown at this point, so here's hoping it still works. Everything inside the bell housing I have replaced. So it's got a brand new thrust bearing carrier, it's got a brand new fork, it's got brand new retainer springs. I've upgraded the pivot ball to a GK Tech strengthened one, all in the idea that I don't want to take this gearbox off again. So it's all brand new, I know it's going to work. To go with that as well, I've also put a brand new rear main seal in. Again, I do not want to be pulling this gearbox off to replace a rear main seal, you know, 200 kilometers down the track. It'll just be a pain in the butt. So that's all brand new in there. We've got a brand new slave cylinder on the side. That's a good idea. Down the other end, I've got a GK Tech short shifter that I've put in there while we're at it. The factory one was pretty dodgy, so I've taken it out. New short shifter in there. Okay, this is a flywheel, again out of from an SR20 det. I've just had it resurfaced and re-doweled, so that's all clean, ready to go. We have our interior dash now, interior trim, sorry. Now this one here is the manual one that I've supplied, and this is the automatic one that I've taken out. As you can see, they're pretty much the same, and as far as I can work out, if you just unscrew this little garnish here, 1, 2, 3, 4 screws, you'll have yourself a manual one instead of an automatic. I mean, they are pretty much the same, so you don't need to go wasting your money on that. Okay, I've got brand new pressure plate bolts. The clutch kit I got did not come with bolts, so double check that and make sure you've got those. If you're doing a conversion like I am, I highly recommend getting a new clutch line. This replaces the hardline, factory hardline, and factory dampener, which is a real complicated system from what I've been told. It's just easier to spend the 50, 60 odd bucks and get one of these. Okay, moving up here. This is the automatic brake pedal. I've already replaced it with the manual one. I'll show you that when we get into the car. You don't have to get yourself a manual one. You can just get an angle grinder and cut this down to the right size and shape, because everything up here is still exactly the same as a manual one. So you can get yourself a manual one like I did, or just cut that off and you're good to go. Obviously you're going to need a clutch pedal. Yep, that's a clutch pedal. We'll talk about that later. I ended up getting a brand new transmission mount because the one on the automatic, yes, the mounts are the same, but I got a new one because the old one was trash. Okay, so here we've got our clutch master cylinder. Again, you're going to need one of those, obviously. That's the factory hard line. We'll be taking that off and replacing it with our braided line, as I said before. Right, that's everything on this side of the gearbox. Alright, over this side of the gearbox we have our flywheel bolts, and we'll check later to see if they are the same as our flex plate bolts from the automatic transmission and see if you need to get those or not. Here we have our two drive shafts. So the one on the left here is the manual, the one on the right is the automatic. As you can see at this end, they are different lengths, so you will need a manual drive shaft. Okay, now also here we have our sandwich plate that goes between our engine block and our bell housing. This is the one off the automatic. Now, because I followed instructions for a KA manual swap, I was informed that I would need a manual one of these. So I've got one of those on order, but from what I can work out, that is going to do the job just fine anyway. So we'll put this one on and see how we go. And also we have our brand new pressure plate and clutch. Again, I don't want to be pulling this stuff out in a couple of kilometers time, so just like replacing everything inside the bell housing, we've got a brand new clutch. Highly recommend it. Hey guys, it's me from the future. I completely forgot to mention the transmission cross member. Now there are 3 different kinds, and each one is stamped with either A, B or C, commonly referred to as A type, B type or C type. Now the automatic transmission comes with the A type, and from everything that I've found out, apparently we need the B type to fit the manual transmission of the SR20. The C type refers to RB gearboxes as well, from what I can figure out. So I've got the B type on its way. We'll try put the A type in just to test for ourselves if it will work or not and find out why. Otherwise we will have to wait till the B type arrives. That is just about everything that you're going to need as far as I can remember. Let's go show you what I've done so far on the car itself. Okay, so I figured we'll start underneath the car here, as this is where the transmission sits. As you can see, that's the back of the engine block. We've got our new rear main seal in there. Honestly guys, if you're going this far into your gearbox conversion, just get one. It cost me 40 bucks including postage. It's a really good idea. It was simple to replace. A lot of people say it can be tricky, but just get the right size screwdriver and just pry it up this direction and it comes off pretty easy. A little bit there, work your way around and it will eventually come out. The hard bit is getting the automatic bearing out. Now that was a bugger because they don't give you much of a face to pull on. So you've got to use an internal bearing puller, or at least this is how I did it. Get an internal bearing puller and then grind down the edges of the teeth. I'll show you what I end up doing. Slide hammers won't fit. You could try use the grease fairy or the bread fairy, but I feel that there's not enough of a face for it to push on. So yeah, I'll show you the bearing puller soon. That's it. So yeah, pretty much it's all just nuts and bolts. It's pretty straightforward to get the gearbox out itself. These bolts up here, like that one and that one, can be tricky, and people do say that they felt like pulling the whole engine out, which I did as well. The way I did it was I got a 19mm ratchet spanner with no offsets, just straight, and patience. From the top of the engine bay, just patience. It's pretty easy. Just, yeah, takes a long time. Alright. Okay, so this is my internal bearing puller that I was talking about. Pretty self-explanatory. These 3 teeth here go onto the internal dimensions of the bearing. It's got little teeth there that grip onto the inside face. You use that end to push out this cone, which then spreads them out to the size of the internal diameter. Rest these against your engine block and then twist away until it pulls the bearing out. Now, if you do it the way it comes out of the box, it will not work. It will just keep sliding off the face and scoring the inside of the bearing. So what you need to do is get yourself a file or an angle grinder and just nick off the edge. There's a bit of a flat top that it comes with on here, and then it dives down on an angle. Come on, focus. Bit too close. So what you need to do is take that edge off. I just did it with a file because it was late at night, didn't want to piss off the neighbours. But that's all it needs. Just take that edge off so it's able to sit into the groove behind the bearing a bit easier, and then you're good to go. This is the worst part so far, trying to get that damn bearing out. I'm sure many other people will say the same thing. That is the easiest way that I've found it, and I found it on some obscure little YouTube video. It was a huge help, so that's why I'm taking so much time now to explain it. Get yourself one of these, don't use a slide hammer, it's just easier. And grind that edge down. Right, onto the inside of the car. So, as I said before, I have already replaced the brake pedal with the manual one. Pretty straightforward, except that, I hope there's enough light to see, the frame of the brake pedal hits hard against this case around the steering shaft. So what you've got to do is undo all your bolts and then push or pull the brake booster out, because that's where the threaded nuts actually are. They're attached to the brake booster, so pull that out and then you're able to wriggle this out of the way. Yeah, just wriggle it or you'll eventually find a path for it to come out of. As for the clutch pedal, Nissan were real handy and left us the template. So 10mm drill bit, drill out inside those for your bolts to go through, and then I'd say that's a hole saw job, and then we'll drill that out. That will give us the room for our clutch master cylinder, and then we can mount up this pedal. Now there's a little box here, that's something to do with the automatic transmission. Undo that bolt, and then the top of the clutch pedal will bolt into there. Just put this to the side, don't unplug it. Cool. Alright, now I think that is everything that I have done so far. I hope it was a good enough explanation for you to follow. If not, drop some questions in the comments below and I'll try answer them. Even if this video is 5 months old, it's a pretty straightforward process, so I'll be able to help you out. Again, I'm not an expert, so I'm sorry if it's a different way of doing it to you. Now, come along on the journey with us as we start to put the manual transmission stuff back in, and I'll try to explain it as best I can as we go along. But there's our master cylinder in place. It's a bit of a tight fit, but with a bit of wriggling it does go in all right. Now the best way I found to put it in was to put the master cylinder in so far so that the rod was just in the hole, and then rest the cylinder up here somewhere, and then go inside and mount up the actual pedal, which takes a bit of wriggling. The air duct gets in the way from the air conditioning. Can't compress that. Again, wriggle, push its way in. It will go in eventually. Hopefully it allows for a bit of stop in your holes. As you saw, my holes weren't perfectly aligned, but it still managed to get the pedal into a good position. So yeah, put that pedal in because it's got the captive bolts on it. Finish mounting up the master cylinder onto the pedal, and then grab a couple of nuts, tighten it up nice and tight, and that's good to go. Now I'll show you inside, shall I? And that's what it's like inside. We now have the magic set of 3 pedals. It's awesome. Yeah, it's a bit tight, but the room is there to do it. You don't need to take anything major out of the way. If you can take the air ducting out, it does make taking the brake pedal out easier and pulling the clutch pedal in a lot easier. But again, if you just give it a bit of a squeeze, it soon wiggles its way in there. Okay, on to the flywheel. Okay, so I got my manual spriget bearing. That goes into that hole as even as possible. A few light taps. Right, and then in my pocket here I have a 14mm socket with a little extension, and that's just a little bit smaller than our spriget bearing. Actually, we won't need that extension, it's just making it go on crooked. And there we go, nice and flush spriget bearing in the hole. So next we'll get our sandwich plate on, and then we'll get our flywheel in place. Okay, so that was a little bit harder than expected because I realized that the top dowel wasn't in position. So had to pull it out of the manual transmission that's going in. Luckily both the dowels were in the manual transmission, so I've removed those, and now we have 2 dowels on the engine block. So again, that's the automatic sandwich plate, so I really don't see why that's not going to work. Now let's put our nicely machined flywheel on there. These things are blimmin' heavy. And I was tempted to get the lightweight one, but opted against it because I'm not going to be doing much track work or anything like that. So, being a standard non-turbo engine, I didn't see the point. Don't forget Loctite. You don't want your flywheel to come flying off. Oh, I just got more Loctite on myself than I did on the bolt. Anyway. You're kidding. No way. No. The bloody wrecker has sent me the wrong bolts. Yep, so the wrecker sent me the wrong flywheel bolts. They're a completely different pitch and everything. So what we're going to try to do is use or test to see if the bolts for the automatic flex plate are long enough. Nah. They go in, but they're only holding on by 3 threads if you're lucky, and I'm not willing to risk that. So unfortunately, that's the end of tonight's mission. So yep, unfortunately the wrecker has sent me the wrong flywheel bolts. They've got the correct head, they're about the right length, but their pitch on the thread is 1.25 as opposed to the 1.0 that we need. So there's absolutely no way that they are going to work, unfortunately. So that means that this video now becomes a 2-part series, unfortunately. So yeah, I'll probably just go out and order some brand new ARP ones. This is just going to be the quickest and easiest way to get it done. I just cannot believe how much this Silvia fights me at every turn. It's been over a year now and it's still not on the road. Anyway, that's a story for another day. Unfortunately, we're a 2-part series, so join us next time where we might actually be able to mount the transmission in its home and actually drive the car. See you then.